Hello, Sumo fans. As I promised, I am back to discuss the craziness of this tournament. 2 days ago was the last time we had a live stream, which was Wednesday night, and the whole picture was looking quite a bit different than it is today, which is what I expected. When we last left off our conversations, Hoshoryu was looking very, very strong. He was looking like he was going to steamroll ahead. And yet, I just had a feeling that he wasn't quite ready to win out. And now, we're looking at a situation where he is behind. He is now tied with 3 other men. And it is Takakyasu who has basically come out on top. And so we're going to go through the records, who's fighting who, and then we'll kind of talk about what's going to happen. So Takakyasu is now 11-2, sole leader. Abi is 10-3, Hoshoryu is 10-3, Takakyasu is 10-3, and Oho is 10-3. Wow, what a wild couple of days it's been. First, let me just say, Oho went into that fight with Hoshoryu. He was going to win. It's like he read Hoshoryu. He knew Hoshoryu was going to be just really super aggressive, and he was going to try to pull some, Oho was going to pull some shiftiness right on the edge. It worked, and it kind of took the steam out of Hoshoryu. But with that being said, Hoshoryu has had horrible results against Takakyasu. Takakyasu has overpowered him each and every time. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Hoshoryu is still, he's bulked up quite a bit, but he's still nowhere near as powerful as Takakyasu. So Takakyasu showed the young boy, his role today. And now we're in the situation where Takakyasu's the sole leader, and he's got no one to fight. If ever Takakyasu was going to win, this is going to be it. It's got to be it. He has not been given a better situation than he has right now. He fought all the tough guys in the beginning. He had Wakataka Kage day 1, Takakyasu day 3, Hoshoryu day 4, Oho day 13, and he beat them all. So, who's he have tomorrow? Kagayaki, who actually was in this race for a little bit until he lost today against Abi. But, Kagayaki's been hanging out in Juryo. He's had a rough time for almost a year now. So, I don't see Kagayaki beating Takakyasu. Could it happen? Absolutely. Because Takakyasu, has a tendency to choke in the last minute, in the last couple of days. He has a tendency to make these weird mistakes. We know that Kagayaki's got something to prove. So, it's possible. But my gut says Takakyasu should win this whole thing. And that's tough for me to say because, first of all, Hoshoryu has really given it his all. Oho has given it his all. Abi's been my dark horse for a long time. So I think that, it'd be good to see Abi in it. I would love to see, a complete free-for-all on the last day, which is not going to happen likely, simply because everybody is facing each other tomorrow. But I would... It's not as fun when somebody wins on day 14 and then you're just kind of hanging out on day 15. Takakyasu does have the opportunity to potentially win tomorrow, I think. Well, actually, I don't think he can win tomorrow no matter what. Let's see. There's going to be at least 2 guys that'll still be challenging him because of all the 10-3s that are left. So say Hoshoryu wins tomorrow. He will be 11-3. Takakyasu will be 12-2. So yeah, exactly. Daniel, hello. Abi is the only person left to fight Takayasu. That's it. He's going to fight Abi. There's no one else. I looked through the whole list of who would be left. They're not going to throw Shodai at him. Actually, he already fought Shodai anyway, but I mean, Abi is literally the highest ranked guy, and he's in this mix. He's the only one left. So they have Kagayaki and Abi. That's it. So that's actually interesting. I do think Takayasu obviously can beat Kagayaki. He can beat Abi, but Abi is kind of a slippery one. He's the kind of fighter that makes a Takayasu nervous if Takayasu is going to be nervous. So there is room for craziness, but it's hard not to see a situation where Takayasu just stays in the lead, wins his last 2 matches, and he finally gets his title. With that said, Abi, Hoshoryu, and Oho have certainly made their mark on this tournament. They are showing that they are right there and they want to be the next guys. Obviously, I'm not writing them out yet, but they've all been very impressive and very hardworking. Takakyasu. What I'm going to say about Takakyasu. So 2 days ago when we were talking about Takayasu, I was saying it's a good position for him to be in, to be fighting from behind so he doesn't have the nerves, but he's not in control of his destiny. And now 2 days later, he's completely in control of his destiny. Takakyasu never was this whole tournament. And this is the problem that he's been in over and over and over again, where he just loses just one too many matches to people he should beat. And now he's out of the playoff situation when he shouldn't be. So, I'm not rooting against anybody because there's all these really exciting reasons for any of them to win. And obviously Takakyasu is my favorite. And I love the idea that he's right in the fight. Did the stream end? Let me check. It says I'm still here. Somebody chat and tell me if the stream is still going on. Oh, okay. All right. Let me know if something happens, because I can see the chat even if the stream goes weird. So, I don't know. I think Takakyasu is going to miss out again. And, it's one of those things where Takayasu, this is his golden opportunity, but this was also Takakyasu's golden opportunity. And, I think he's going to miss out. This is Takayasu's to lose. This is a golden opportunity. Now, let me read some comments here because it's going to be adding to this conversation. So Liddy Lid says Takayasu is going to need a good game plan for long arm Abi. I think he has been adapting his style to his opponents recently, no? And Daniel adds that Abi beat him both times they fought this year. With that said, this is true. Abi is a tough opponent for Takayasu, but there's a couple of things that are a little different. First of all, Abi getting the surgery. Abi's not in the same state that he might have been when he's at his best. Although Abi's been sketchy before the surgery, maybe because of the injury. The second is, I gotta believe that Takayasu is really focused this time. He's only got to win 2 more matches, and they're not the toughest guys. But you never know. We could have an absolute wild day 15. I mean, I would recommend watching live if you don't mind being up in the wee hours of the morning, or if you live in a part of the world where you're not up at the wee hours of the morning. NHK World has a free access to the live stream. It's on apps. You can get it on your Roku. You can get it on your TV, your computer, your phone, anything. I would recommend it. Could end up being a bust if, Takayasu just wins out. But here's a good opportunity that if something crazy is going to happen, you might want to be watching live. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Anyway, so what do you guys think? Do you think Takakyasu is going to finally defeat his demons and win this time? Or are we going to see somebody else? I was chatting with John about it, and he wasn't necessarily counting Takakyasu out yet. And I think that's partially because Takakyasu has let him down many times. So, it seems like at this point, even though Takakyasu is in the mix with all the young guys, it seems like at this point, the two veterans are going to show the young guys what it takes to actually win. It's going to be a lot harder than it was looking a couple of days ago. With that said, we must always talk about the state of the top, the Yokozuna no Ozeki. Unfortunately, Shodai finally he couldn't pull off his crazy magic during Kadoban, and he's going down. And now Takakyasu is the sole Ozeki. There is no Yokozuna who's competing. I mean, I don't know. It could make Terunofuji rush back for January. I don't think that's a good idea. But all the pressure's on Takakyasu now. He's the last man standing up at the top. And apparently that hasn't happened since like the 1800s or something like that. So this is quite a bit of pressure for him. Everybody's going to be looking at him to win. I mean, Wakataka Kage was a real bust this tournament. Not a surprise because, he's still young. A lot of these guys, they're not quite ready yet. People are going to be really hype on Hoshoryu no matter what happens, but I definitely don't think he's getting an Ozeki bid, even if he were to magically end up winning this tournament. That Ozeki idea for this tournament is done, but he will be eligible next tournament. They're going to get hyped on Oho, but he really has to prove himself. He's having one really good tournament, but that doesn't mean that he can sustain this. And Abi, I was really hyped on Abi myself, and so was everybody else. And as soon as the Ozeki conversation started happening, he got the injury. Either he got the injury or he started mentally falling back and then got the injury. I'm not really sure when the injury occurred. Liddy Lid says, does Takakyasu really feel pressure? He just plows through at a consistent pace. I always feel he is confident and comfortable. There's a lot of truth to that. I do think Takakyasu feels pressure because I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself, but I also do think he is probably one of the more confident people in the tournament, and I think that's why he's Ozeki. I think that's why, even though he has limited capability, with the short arms and the short stature, and, really having to rely on power only, not having really a belt game, you've got to be pretty confident to stay Ozeki this long and amongst all the turmoil. Think about how many people have been Ozeki since he became Ozeki. He became the fourth Ozeki when it was Goeido, Takayasu, and Tochinoshin. And then he knocks Tochinoshin out. Goeido retires, or Takayasu falls out of it, and Goeido retires. And meanwhile, we have Asanoyama come in, and we have Shodai come in, and then finally meet Takayumi. Takakyasu, this goes a little bit to what we were talking about on Wednesday, where Takakyasu's been living, breathing sumo his entire life. And he was in other martial arts, and I do recommend the Sumo Stew video on Takakyasu because it sheds light on his younger self. Always been a confident guy. But at the same time, he's not stoic like a lot of these guys. Like the 2 times that he won the championships, he was crying. All that energy was coming out. So he's confident, but he's also just full of stuff. So I'm sure when things don't, like with this tournament, if he doesn't win this tournament, which I don't think he's going to, I think he's going to be kind of fired up and going to be anxious to go for January, but he's going to be disappointed. He's going to be kicking himself for some of his, some of those 3 losses. Daniel says, my guess is Takakyasu, Yusho, TKK, and Hoshoryu. What's JY? You're short of hand is throwing me off. Maybe it's because it's late and I can't think straight. Liddy Lid says, confidence difference between him and Shodai is night and day. Absolutely. Shodai's always been a talented Rikishi. You could see it long before he even went on an Ozeki run. He would sometimes just beat the Yokozuna. Or he would sometimes just, be a part of, the chaos and knock somebody out who was in the Yusho race. And it's like, oh, well, I had to fight Shodai. But you never knew what, you never knew what Shodai you were going to get. So, unfortunately, it's the same. It's kind of the same as Mitake Yumi. Got it. Jung Yusho. Got it. Thumbs up. Brain fog is coming off now. Being Ozeki is hard. It's really, really hard. It's the hardest position. It's harder than Yokozuna. It's the hardest to get to Yokozuna. But once you get it, you have leeway that you don't have in Ozeki. You can get injured and take a tournament off. And the way things have been going, you can take a year off. In Ozeki, you can't take any time off if you're injured. And you're going to get more injured because everybody's gunning for you. So, unfortunately, Shodai doesn't seem injured. It just, the pressure's too much, perhaps. Things might not be so great in the stable. Doesn't have a lot of people to practice with. I mean, his sparring partner is Yu Takayama, and things haven't been going well for him for a very long time. So, I don't know. This is where we're at. We're going to be stuck with just one Ozeki, no Yokozuna, and just a bunch of young guys who are starting to peak, but we need to see the consistency from them. So, I don't know. It's crazy. Hello, Quackadoo. I really enjoy that name. It's hilarious. So, it's going to be wild. Tomorrow will be wild because it's going to sort of settle things out. It's going to... Michael says, pretty sure I jinxed Hoshoryu. Ugh. I was just about to say, Hoshoryu very well could lose to Abi tomorrow because now he's on a downward slide. He lost 3 in a row. He's not looking nearly as confident. Takakyasu should beat Oho tomorrow. But who knows? Look at what Oho did to Hoshoryu. Takakyasu's got that same, I'm just going to stick to you until I push you out. And so I'm pretty confident Oho is going to try another ballet move at the rope. I would hope that Takakyasu would be wise to that, is number 1. But number 2 is he should be powerful enough that Oho doesn't get a chance to do that. So I think the Abi Hoshoryu match is really, really up for grabs. And it's really going to determine, how Hoshoryu is set up going forward, either way. Daniel says, Yu Takayama has been really hurt, and Yoshi, the young stablemate in Makushita, also suffered an injury earlier this year. So yeah, not the best vibes. Yeah, imagine being in that stable where everybody's struggling. It's just a struggling stable. And if you're a guy like Shodai who's kind of laid back in comparison to his contemporaries, you probably need some extra energy. You need a new stablemate, or you need to be able to go fight some other guys. I don't know what Shodai's future is going to be after this. I don't expect 10 wins next tournament. I really don't. It'll be interesting to see what happens from here with him. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Mitake Yumi from here. Quackadoo says, I want Hoshoryu to win still, and Michael says same here. I would like to see it stay competitive, but the tricky thing here is Takayasu really has the sweet situation. The fact that he fought all the tough guys already, it would have to be one of the most epic collapses, which is possible, but it would have to be one of the most epic collapses for Hoshoryu to even have a shot now. Like, today was his day. He needed to beat Takakyasu. So, in some ways, I feel like today decided the Yusho. But we'll see. We'll see. He's only one behind. Has the ability to beat Abi. Takayasu is very, very sketchy, when he gets down to the final two. We've seen stuff happen before. But it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. These are the moments where you really miss Teruno Fuji because, first of all, Teruno Fuji would have, kept things like a tight ship. But second of all, there would have been somebody really intense to fight on the last day. Not for Takayasu, though, because he was in the sweet spot of being Magashira 1. So you fight all the tough guys in the beginning, and a lot of these guys were actually kind of rusty in the beginning. I mean, Waka Takakage is still rusty. But Takakyasu was still getting into his stride, and he's had, him and Takayasu, they've had this thing, these battles. They go back and forth. But I think Takayasu took a lot of people by surprise, and now it's too late. Raul says, there's plenty of room for Takayasu to slip up. Even if we assume he beats Kageyaki, he will be 12-2 with two guys at 11-3. So if he loses versus Abi, then anyone else could win. That's the whole thing, though. It really comes down to the match with Abi. It really, really comes down to the match with Abi. And it's certainly possible. But if Takayasu screws this up, this will be the most epic of all of his collapses. So we'll see. I mean, Abi is a tough opponent. He really is. And he's going to be... If he beats Hoshoryu tomorrow, then he's going to be motivated just to stay in it. So, I mean, it could happen. Michael says, playoff, anyone? And Lily says, I'm sure Takayasu can hold it together at least once. It's a numbers game. He's occasionally at the top. Let's go Takayasu. The thing that's interesting is, if it all came down to tomorrow, and none of these guys were as close as they were, no problem. That extra match that he has to win against Abi is the thing that's making me say, we'll see. But he should, at this point, he beat Takakyasu. If he can beat Takakyasu, he should be able to beat Abi. They're a very similar style wrestler. Sometimes Abi's better, sometimes Takakyasu's better, but they're very similar style. And Abi slips up a lot. He gets really, really... It depends on what kind of mode he's in, but he gets really, really into it. His feet go flying in the air. He gets into the thrust, and then people deflect him, or he loses, he runs right out of the ring. And Takayasu... But with that being said, you also have to take into consideration that, Takayasu doesn't get to choose if Abi has his best day. He doesn't get to choose if all of a sudden Kageyaki learned something and he was saving it for him. So, we will see. The way these patterns work, it seems like it's going to be his, but who knows? Tomorrow's going to be very, very tense. Very, very tense. And we'll see if the young guys can stand up. Especially Oho. It's going to be very interesting to see how he fights Takakyasu. Hoshoryu is going to be absolutely full of just throwing it all at the wall. Raul says, disagree that Abi and Takakyasu are two similar types of wrestlers. They're both thrusters, but Abi and Takakyasu have very different body types, and so their strengths and weaknesses are different. I'm not saying that's not correct. I mean, when you think about Abi with the much longer arms and the much quicker thrusts, there's a different way to defeat him than Takakyasu, who's basically trying to get under you and blast you out. And yes, he's going to do a lot of the thrusts, and he's going to do a lot of slaps and try to knock you silly. And he loves the deflection. He loves that parry and knock you out. But they're similar enough for Takakyasu, who's faced both of them many, many, many times, for him to already have a game plan. Like, if he's fought Takakyasu and was successful, I just think that it'd be easy for him to have a game plan against Abi. If he had lost against Takakyasu, then maybe you have a little bit of nerves on it. But Daniel says Abi is more push and pull like Aoyama, and Takakyasu is more push deflect. Absolutely. The thing about Takakyasu is more of, if he gets you on the tachi and he sticks to you, or he times that deflect at the right time, there's nothing you can do. You can have any game plan you want. You've lost the match. Whereas Abi hangs in there a lot longer. Like, Takakyasu has to end the match in 30 seconds or less, or he starts to tire out. Abi is doing a lot more movement, and there's a lot more opportunity for him to make mistakes. Takakyasu is won or lost in a split second. Michael says, I would prefer Abi if the match lasts more than 30 seconds. And Quackadoo says, Takakyasu start off the tachi, the same forearm blast every time. So just sidestep? Oh God. Let's not talk about any more hankas or sidestepping or... Somebody could pull that on him. I don't think Abi would. I don't know. Maybe Abi would. We'll have to see. I mean, there could be a shift to the side to avoid that forearm blast. Because the whole point of the forearm blast is really kind of to stun you so that you're off balance and then he can take care of business. And, Hakuho was using that a lot at the end. Tochinoshin uses it now. It's kind of a tactic for someone who isn't at the... I don't want to say it's always the case, but it's a tactic used for guys who aren't in their top form. Takayasu's been using it for a long time, so I'm not trying to suggest that, he's off, but at the same time, the forearm is really added in there because there's something, you need a little extra oomph that you don't have without it. Raul says Takakyasu should henka Abi. Oh no. I can't handle it. I might just lose it if that happens. It would be something. What if they double hanked? I've seen that happen a couple times. That is the weirdest thing ever, is when the double hanka happens and then they're just both staring at each other and they're trying to make a grapple, and that would make for a very interesting match. Daniel says, if the match lasts longer than 30 seconds, that means it's on the belt most likely, so it would be in favor of Takakyasu. So it would be in favor for Takakyasu than not Abi. Longer matches typically benefit Takakyasu, period. He's been in a lot of them with a lot of different wrestlers, and with the exception of some of these like sketchy ones, Takakyasu usually wins those. And Abi, he's a fast and furious kind of guy, but Abi could last longer than 30 seconds. Takakyasu, if he goes longer than 30 seconds, it's not much more than 45. Abi could hang in there. And the interesting thing about Abi is he does have belt work. He actually could shift from what he's doing to the belt very, very easily. And I'm sure behind the scenes he is working on belt stuff. So if he wanted to do it, this would be the time to do it. On day 15, if he wanted to just pretend he was going to do thrusts and then grab the belt and just throw Takakyasu, that's possible. I would not count that out. It's not the easiest thing to do when that's not your preferred style, but he could pull that off. Michael says double Hanka for the U show. I don't know. The world would explode. Everyone would quit in the Sumo Association. They're like, we're done. We're done here. Turn the lights off. Liddy Lid says, classic Takakyasu style, yes. Slow down the pace, control with the belt. He's been doing more debalancing with shoulder pull downs recently. Well, he definitely wants to slow down the pace because quick matches are what screws him up. When somebody else is dictating the pace, he gets all discombobulated. So I don't think he wants a long match, but he likes when he can slow it down, do his thing, keep the guy from getting frantic, and then he's going to go for the throw. Quackadoo, he's lost to Wakatage. He lost to Wakatake throw, though, longer match. I'm not saying he never loses in the longer matches. I mean, Wakatake Kage is like one of the top, like he's one of the guys in the best shape in sumo. That's why everybody's looking at him like he's the next great thing, because he really should be the next great thing. He is in excellent shape. He could go toe-to-toe with anybody for a very long time. Daniel says, my guess is it'll be a slapdown win in the Takakyasu Abi match. Not sure who will be doing it, though. Yeah. Both of those guys are capable of doing the pull the arm and slap down. Yeah, the match could, we're talking all this hype and all this like very exciting stuff, and this thing could be over in like 2 seconds because somebody does a slap down. Quackadoo says Abi. Michael, with so much angst with the Hanka, why doesn't the JSA outlaw it? Mostly because of weight class, I would guess. If you outlaw it, then all those small guys that got to go toe-to-toe with guys who are like 100, 200 pounds heavier than them, and that's just not going to work. It's not interesting sumo. You're going to hurt a lot of guys. And nobody wants to put weight classes in because there's just not enough guys to do that, honestly. If you try to do a, all, lightweight with there's not enough enhos to fight. And it takes away the fun of watching an enho fight a Tochinoshin. So yeah, it'll never go away. They'll just keep reprimanding people, and they'll just keep doing what they want to do anyway. That's what I've come to terms with. I'm always complaining about the Hanka. I made the video about Takakyasu, who's my favorite, and I was angry at him. And then Hoshoryu, pulls a Hanka when he's 9-1, and I'm like, ugh. I give up. I cannot win this fight. So everybody's just going to Hanka, and I'm going to just move on. I'll point it out, though. I will point it out. And Daniel says, yep, because fighters like Terutsuyoshi and Enho wouldn't be able to compete without Hankas. Michael says, I can see that. Lady Lid, Tachiai without consideration to Hanka is uncontrolled Tachiai. That's true. It actually does keep you in check. Knowing that there's a possibility that someone could pull a Hanka does sort of keep everything tight. Best way I can put it. And I guess, I don't mind the Hanka. I don't mind it in theory. Like, if everybody really was expecting the Hanka like they should be, and they could read it a lot easier, I guess I probably wouldn't be as bothered. But it bothers me when you've got two guys that expect to be going head to head, and then one of the guys goes flying out of the ring because he really didn't expect the guy he's fighting to do that. That's what makes it feel cheap. So if everybody just expected the Hanka and didn't screw up, then maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. Although I have to say, I think it was Nishiki Fuji. The Nishiki Fuji attempt, was it Nishiki Fuji or was it Midori Fuji? Attempt to Hanka Takakyasu. He just picked him up in midair and flung him out of the ring. That was hilarious. That is what should happen to you when you Hanka if you don't do it right. That was like worth it for me. I'm like, okay, finally a Henka that I think is funny. Michael says, I don't mind the Henka if it's my guy I'm rooting for. I could see that, but in the case of Takakyasu last tournament, I actually hated that my guy did the Henka. Because then everybody's complaining about it and saying he's a bad guy, and even the commentators really jumped on him when other guys, they don't jump on as much. And it's like, I don't want all that drama. I want to hear that my guy's the best guy ever. Daniel says, the problem with the Henka is that it's best used in situations you shouldn't use it. Exactly. The best time to pull a Henka is like the worst time for entertainment's sake. Like, you should pull the Henka on day 15 when you really want to win the tournament, but that makes for horrible sumo. But that is actually when the Henka would be most useful. Royal says, the thing about Henkas is that because it so rarely happens, it's a big benefit to you to do it, because if your opponent is scared of you doing it, they won't be able to go as hard at the tachi. Absolutely, and you got to think back to some of the Hakuho matches where he did some weird stuff. Like when he first fought Tobi Zaru, and he decides to go way back behind the Shikiri-sen, and everybody's like freaking out, like, what is he doing? That's not Yokozuna sumo. But, Hakuho was here to show people, like, you don't know what I'm going to do. You don't know that I'm going to face you head on. And he was playing mind games with them. I'm not against mind games. Maybe you just need to have a little more flair or style about it. Maybe that's what I need to be okay with it. Because I would get mad at Hakuho, but then I would also think it was funny. And I would also be like, well, I was extremely entertained that he didn't even engage at the tachi. He just stood there. So maybe everybody just needs to make the Henka a little more exciting. And Rolo says, and this is actually the big point, if everyone starts doing Henka 20% of the time, sumo is unwatchable. Absolutely. That's really the biggest problem with it. A Henka is not entertaining. Could you imagine if the first 5 matches of day 1 are Henkas? You'd be like, why am I watching this? Like, I'm turning this off. This is boring. Quackaroo. Mitakumi versus Shodai last match. Ugh. That is a bummer right there. That is a super bummer match on the last day. It should not be that way. Oh, it should not be that way. Please let us get some new Ozeki. Please. Michael says, someone is getting that fat stack of envelopes. Wow. Yeah. Well, I guess it's consolation prize. Roll. It's like the prisoner's dilemma. For every Rikishi, it's beneficial to Henka more. But if everyone Henkas more, nobody watches sumo. Yes. Perfectly well put. It is like the prisoner's dilemma. And this particular tournament, it's a pretty thin crowd. And I don't think that's necessarily because of COVID, because, they were restricting people before. There were more people in the restricted tournaments than there are now that they've taken the number off. It's just, sumo's taken a big hit with the lack of Ozeki and the lack of Yokozuna. There's no question about that. There's just not enough excitement. I was watching some old matches, and boy, can you tell the difference even 10 years ago to now. The excitement is just not there. Even the pacing of some of the matches 10 years ago, like, everybody was fast. Everybody was like going wild and crazy. So, we really don't want to be taking chances with unwatchable sumo. Daniel says Kyushu is notorious for low number of attendance, and Raul agrees with that. Crowds are always tough in Fukuoka, I think. We're not in Tokyo. I understand that. I do, but it's much thinner than I remember. It's pretty thin. Maybe something's going on. Maybe it's a one-off, but it's way smaller than I expected. Be interesting to see what it looks like when they're back in Tokyo. But at the same time, really, really ask yourself, who are they going there to see? You know, like Takakyasu, I love him, but I don't know if everybody else does. If they find his sumo to be exciting. A lot of people don't find his sumo to be that exciting. So who are they going to see? If you were in Japan, who are you going to see? Now, a lot of us, we like everybody. But if you're Japanese and sumo's your thing, who do you want to see in a tournament? Who are you going to fork out the money to see? Royal says, but probably the attendance is bad even for Kyushu standards. I really think it is. I don't have any specific numbers to go by with that, but it's looking... Ooh. Daniel says, my guess is that Shodai, the local guy, is doing poorly and Terunofuji is absent as well, which doesn't help attendance. 100%. If Shodai was doing good, and he's fighting against Kadoban, you might have seen people show up to root for him, but it sounds like everybody sort of gave up on him. They could read the room, and maybe they didn't want to watch it live. Like, they didn't want to watch their guy lose Ozeki live. I wouldn't want to if he was my guy. And everybody comes for the Yokozuna. So without Terunofuji, I'm sure the attitude is, well, maybe I'll save my money and I'll go next time. But a year from now, are we going to have Terunofuji? A year from now, are we going to have Ozeki? We better. Raul says, the state of sumo is great for diehard fans right now. We're in day 13 and there are 5 different guys who could win. But for casual fans, not having a Hakuho or a Takonohana is tough. I agree. I do enjoy the chaos. I liked both. I mean, I really enjoyed when Hakuho was dominant. I really enjoyed when there were 4 Yokozuna. That was super cool. And I enjoyed, really rooting for the guy, who was going to dominate everything. And you had to work really hard if you were going to even come close. But I also do enjoy the chaos. I enjoy watching the young guys come up. I want to see the excitement of somebody winning for the first time. I want to see the birth of a new career. Daniel says, the only local guy I know that's doing well is Hiradomi. I have a hard time with his name. I don't know why. Just the way all the sounds are together. I struggle every time to pronounce it. I picked for my fantasy sumo, and he's doing amazing, but Oho is beating him. So it's like, what a great pick I had. But in the end, I'm still not going to win because Oho is doing better. Come on. We're going to get into, when we get to the recap show, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Ichinojo controversy, how we finally might know the reason for Snorlax versus Hariyama. I think it's pretty clear what's been going on all these years. We're going to get into Hiromi. We're going to get into the guys at the bottom. I didn't want to talk about the guys at the bottom on these live streams because it's more fun to talk about who's going to win. But we're going to really get into the guys at the bottom and sort of the crash outs and talk a little bit more about Chiyo Tairyu. So there'll be some different things that we'll focus on in the recap. And we'll actually be together. Thumbs up. Our first together in a while. Quackity, I think 2023 will be Teru's last year. I can't see how it won't be. I mean, once you get to the point where you need to get the surgery, now you're even more on borrowed time. Because you don't know if the surgery is going to work. And if it does work, it's hard with such decay for you to just suddenly become a new man. It's like if you get the surgery when you're 22, 23, maybe it gives you a new lease on your career. When you get the surgery, is he in his 30s yet? He's in his 30s. When you get the surgery, when he gets the surgery and his knees have gone through all those years of getting beat down, it's a stopgap measure. So, barring some sort of miracle, we won't be getting much more from Terunofuji. Maybe he'll go on a tear, though. Maybe he'll come back in March, and maybe he'll win 3 in a row or something. But all of it's going to be like Hakuho, where you didn't know how bad it was. We didn't know, at least it wasn't said out loud, how bad Hakuho, the state he was in, to the point where he knows he's going to quit. We didn't know he was going to quit. We had no idea. It's going to be the same thing with Terunofuji. He knows his state, but we don't know his state. So I can't see him going past 2023, which is such a shame. It's such a shame because he finally makes it through all that baggage, and now, now it's almost over. It's such a sad thing going on in sumo in terms of like just the sheer number of people who aren't able to continue because of injuries. Raul says, I think we'll see Terunofuji fight one basho on 1-2 basho off for a while. The JSA will surely be as lenient as possible to keep him on the Banzuke for max time. I agree with that. If he can pull that off, that is going to happen. Because they really need to get the next Ozekis in. And then they need the Ozekis to be good enough to be Yokozuna. I mean, we've had a lot of Ozekis. Only Terunofuji became Yokozuna, and he just shot right up. He didn't tool around in Ozeki. He didn't go Kataban and then go back to normal. He shot right up like the guy who deserves to be Yokozuna. Everybody else just hanging out in Ozeki, and either they're stuck there like Takakyasu, or they're falling out. So they really need Terunofuji to stick it out as long as he can, in hopes that Hoshoryu, Wakataka Kage, they're really the only two I can think of that have a real shot at being an Ozeki. We'll see about Oho. He's still a little green for me. I mean, this is a good tournament he's having, but I don't think he's ready for those kinds of conversations. I think only Hoshoryu and Wakataka Kage are. So, we will see. We will see how this goes, but Takakyasu actually put together 3 good tournaments in a row. He stayed in the tournament conversation, and that's honestly that's Ozeki sumo. He's not winning, which is really the pinnacle of what you need for an Ozeki, but the last 3 tournaments he's been staying in it after many bad tournaments. I mean, things went really wrong in January for him. It says, we had 5 Ozekis in 2 years, now 1 Ozeki. Yeah, all those guys passed through the Ozeki ranks, and now we only have 1 left. It's not good. That is not good. The chaos is fun. The different tournament winners is fun, but there's got to be some stability. Royal says, Wakataka Kage is going to turn 28 in a month. I think this is more or less the peak level we'll get from him. After Hoshoryu, it's probably up to the guys in Juryo right now, like Hokuseiho and Kinbozan. I think most people are hedging their bets on the guys who are coming up. That's who everybody's looking at. Because if you think about Hakuho, for instance, or any of the other guys, even Takakyasu, they just flew up the ranks. They got to the upper division, and they flew up those ranks. If you get stuck in these holding patterns like Wakataka Kage's in, and you're 28, chances are you're, like, if it's not an injury, chances are you're not going to make it. Same with Asanoyama. I mean, Asanoyama lost in the 3rd division. I mean, I'm not feeling too positive about him either. I never felt that positive about him because he never looked confident enough for the job. Like someone was saying earlier about Takakyasu being confident. You've got to be confident to be Ozeki. Even if you're losing, you just got to think you are the greatest, or you're not going to make it. So yeah, Wakataka Kage, he really should be doing better if he's going to be the next great hope. Hoshoryu is still young, but he is taking a lot longer than, the guys who are real superstars. But I'm hoping that this is the tournament where we finally get it and we don't have to think about any of the other tournaments. But yeah, we need somebody to fast track from Juryo, come in and start cleaning house because it's just not working out. It's not working out. I had to run at Ozeki a couple times, but it's like, okay, you had your time. You're not going to be, even if you were to somehow miraculously come back to Ozeki, you're only going to be there for a little while. So you're not the next guy that we need either. And Takakyasu, love Takakyasu, but if he was Yokozuna material, he would have done it by now. He is the best of... He can't even say he's the best of the best because he consistently loses to people he shouldn't lose to, but he is the top guy for now. But, I mean, he really needs an extra something to be Yokozuna because you can't be losing... You can't be losing the way he loses in Ozaki. You just can't. You've got to be Terunofuji. You've got to be Hakuho. You've got to be Asashoryu. So, yeah, we're probably a ways away from getting the next Great Hope. And we're just going to limp along and we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun with the chaos. We're going to have fun watching guys win titles that would not have won titles if Hakuho was there, would not have won titles if Terunofuji was there. With the big guys out, it gives other guys a lot of opportunities. So we're going to enjoy that. We're going to enjoy the chaos and just live in it. Well, I think that's all I got for tonight. We've been on for almost an hour, and it's really awesome that you guys all showed up again, and we got some new people to come in and talk tonight. This will be my last live stream for this tournament. We're definitely going to do the recap show on Sunday.